We have breaking news. I have two sources to bring to you, and then I took 16 notes on the player that the Kansas City Chiefs have just signed, at least reportedly signed. I have not seen anything official as of the filming of this video. Jaylon Moore, the left tackle from the 49ers who stepped in during the season because of injury and performed admirably. We have this from Arrowhead Pride. Report, Chiefs signing offensive tackle Jaylon Moore. Moore comes to Kansas City on a 2-year contract from Arrowhead Pride by Peter Sweeney. Moore, 27, entered the NFL out of Western Michigan as a 5th-round pick. Western Michigan, Mike Caliendo, 5th-round pick from the 49ers in the 2021 NFL Draft. A unique point about Moore is that he has never been a regular starter in the NFL. In 4 seasons, he's compiled just 12 starts, filling in for starter Trent Williams when he was out of the lineup. Interesting to note there, it's not like he was sitting behind a scrub in San Francisco. He was sitting behind Trent Williams. Now, obviously, there's 2 tackle spots. There's 2 guard spots. Could he play center? So there was a whole lot going on, but it's not like he was not playing because he was not good. Trent Williams was on the field in front of him. Trent Williams would be on the field in front of a lot of tackles in the NFL. In 2024, the article continues, Moore logged 5 starts from week 12 through 16. According to Pro Football Focus, he allowed 10 pressures, including 1 sack on 154 opportunities. From ESPN sources, Chiefs sign offensive lineman Jaylon Moore to a 2-year, $30 million deal from ESPN by Adam Teicher. Kansas City, Missouri. The Kansas City Chiefs, who went through 4 starting left tackles last season, have found a player they hope will finally plug the hole. The Chiefs have agreed to a 2-year, $30 million contract with 4-year veteran Jaylon Moore, sources told ESPN's Adam Schefter. Moore played all 4 NFL seasons with the San Francisco 49ers and was mostly a backup. Moore played in 55 games, starting 12. Now, this is interesting. Played in 55 games, starting 12. There were a lot of times, let me sneak down here real quick to something I've got. You've got special team snaps here too, but you also have a lot of games where he was getting offensive snaps, despite the fact that another player was starting ahead of him. He joined the 49ers in 2021 as a 5th-round pick out of Western Michigan. Left tackle was a trouble spot last season for the Chiefs. Rookie Kingsley Suamataia started the first 2 games before being benched in favor of Wanya Morris. Morris was also benched late in the season in favor of veteran DJ Humphries. Veteran DJ Humphries was also benched last season for Joe Thuney. The Chiefs finished the season, obviously, by moving Joe Thuney to left tackle. Thuney last week was traded to the Chicago Bears. So what are we looking at when we're talking about Jaylon Moore? 6'4" and 1/8 inches, 311 pounds coming out of college, though I believe he plays closer to 320 now. 33 3/8 inch arms, 10 3/4 inch hands, had a 5.25 40-yard dash. Not the most mobile, not the fastest guy. A 1.82 10-yard split on that, had 30.5 inch vertical, 8 foot 10 inch broad jump. Those are decent explosive numbers, but nothing particularly grand. 27 reps on the bench press with those 33 3/8 inch arms. That's a good number for Jaylon Moore. From PFF, he was the 25th ranked overall tackle, 74.9 overall grade, a 73.1 pass blocking grade, and a 70.1 run blocking grade. So you see, these are all decent numbers. We looked at Wanya Morris last week, and I believe he was in the 50s for almost everything. Then Joe Thuney was, I believe, in the 70s for most things. So we have here a player that is at least looking like an upgrade on the line. Now, see this number here, 827 total offensive snaps, through his 4 seasons in the NFL, through the entirety of his rookie contract, 827 reps, 247 special teams reps. So what do I think is going on here? Well, there's a lot of things and a lot of things worth talking about. Obviously notable here, this contract, 2 years, $30 million, is the same amount, $15 million, that Joe Thuney was scheduled to make this season. So the real bet being wagered here along the offensive line is that whoever steps in at left guard will be a reasonable percentage of as good as Joe Thuney, while Jaylon Moore is more. So Kingsley Suamataia will be 85% of the guard that Joe Thuney was, and Jaylon Moore will be 121% of the left tackle that was played last season. Should that be the case, the Kansas City Chiefs come out as a win, right? I don't know if I stated that in a way that makes good enough sense, but the left tackle position is also a whole lot more detrimental to your overall offensive line if it does struggle than the left guard position. So you're trading out. Basically, what you're doing here by signing Jaylon Moore to a $15 million per season deal and having Kingsley Suamataia slide in is the same from a pay scale as it would have been to have Joe Thuney at left guard and a rookie left tackle, or a second-year left tackle, but say a rookie left tackle. It's the same kind of area as far as the salary is concerned. So what you're looking at there is an offensive line better off with a better left tackle and a worse left guard than a better left guard and a worse left tackle. Everyone around the NFL is going to tell you, yes, that's why left tackles are paid so much. That's why left tackles are so highly coveted. That's why if there are any definitive starting left tackles in this draft, they will be gone before pick 15. The Kansas City Chiefs pick 31st. So it was very important that they get something figured out at the left tackle position before the NFL draft. The number 2 thing here, after seeing this signing, I went around and tried to take note of commentators from the 49ers vlogosphere, commentators around the 49ers in general. Everyone was kind of smitten with Jaylon Moore. That said, this is a situation where Jaylon Moore is a finally clicked type of player. One of these guys where I don't want to use the Sky Moore example. Who else is there Gosh, that's the best example though. What about if Sky Moore came out this season and had 500 receiving yards, we would say, man, that was really cool. It finally clicked. Now, it's not that dastardly it's not that dastardly as if Sky Moore had done it, because I don't think the fan base was as low on Jaylon Moore before last season as our fan base seems to be about Sky Moore. Chamari Connor. Pretend Chamari Connor came out this year and became a Pro Bowler. That's kind of maybe the general expectation. Someone who has been on the field, someone who has contributed, but maybe is not the strongest yet in their career. When he was drafted, he was expected to be a guard. They talked about him as if he was going to be a guard. So in that way, he's kind of the anti-Kingsley Suamataia, who was drafted to be a tackle and moved into guard. But he did play left tackle at Western Michigan. So he had lots of snaps at Western Michigan at left tackle, and seems that this is where he's kind of finally growing into the left tackle that they thought he could be. Similar to the way if Kingsley, towards the end of his rookie contract, once again became a left tackle. So it needs to be said, this is a 2-year deal. They're not signing him to a 4-year deal. They didn't sign him to a 3-year deal. It wasn't a 5-year deal. It was 2 years. Essentially, this is a prove-it type of contract. And it's not a break-the-bank kind of contract at that. It is a 2-year prove-it type of deal along the offensive line, which, by the way, does not stop the Kansas City Chiefs from taking a left tackle in the first round of the draft should a left tackle fall to them, or should they have a reasonable opportunity to trade up for one. Remember, in the first round, you have a 5th-year option on these players. So, getting that 5th-year option on a left tackle, this being a 2-year contract for Jaylon Moore, would allow you 3 years at the end for him to be whoever it is, the rookie left tackle to be whoever it is that he grows into. But it also, you have, if you were to draft Josh Simmons in the first round, we'll just throw an example out there. You have 3 guys. By God, you just find somebody to get the reps. Jawan Taylor is not without fault in last season's downfall. Jawan Taylor has committed plenty of penalties since becoming a Kansas City Chief. He's given up his share of sacks. All of these things are true. So, between Jawan Taylor, Jaylon Moore, and rookie tackle, you ruthlessly find whoever needs to be on the field. I think at this point, Brett Veach is as done with worrying about the offensive line as are you and I. Were it not, and I said this morning during the Nick Bolton re-signing video, were it not for the struggles on the offensive line, which are not excusable but are understandable considering where the Kansas City Chiefs have drafted for a decade now, were the Kansas City Chiefs not having problems along the offensive line, Patrick Mahomes might be chasing ring number 6 this season. That stinks for you and me. We really wanted to see those other 2 Super Bowls be wins. That is legacy defining for Brett Veach. If he doesn't fix that, then he's 3-2 in Super Bowls, and they're unlikely to get back. If he fixes the offensive line, the Kansas City Chiefs are a juggernaut that will power forward for another half-decade to decade. Brett Veach wants this offensive line fixed more than you or I do. This is not necessarily a home run signing, right? So there's 2 ways that this goes. Maybe Jaylon Moore gets on the field and is exposed as a guy who was able to spot start but is not a full-time guy. Remember, still fewer than 900 snaps. Or he was a guy who was quietly developing his entire first 4 years in the league and is now a legitimate left tackle. That is possible. Either way, say it goes bad. Say he's not a left tackle. Well, he's $15 million. He's not $30 million a year. He's not breaking the bank. It's a lot of money, but he's not breaking the bank. You can draft a guy to start over him. He's also only here for 2 years. Now, pretend that he is a legitimate starting left tackle. He is a good one. He is the guy who will come out every week and be ranked that 75 overall PFF grade. If he's that guy and you got him for $15 million 2 years, that's a home run. He's one of those 2 guys. I think it's very unlikely that he ends up being a middle-of-the-road type of thing. I think it's very unlikely that he comes out and all of a sudden he's a 68 PFF kind of guy. I think that he will be who he was last season, or he's just not the guy. Either way, I can defend this move by Brett Veach because you had to do something to free yourself up for the draft. You had to do something to get someone on the field. And that leads me into the sixth point here. At this point, at this moment in time, what do the Kansas City Chiefs have to do in the draft? What is it that the Kansas City Chiefs go into draft night having to get accomplished? Obviously, they think Jaylon Moore is a real, legitimate starting left tackle. Maybe he's not a Pro Bowler. Maybe he's not a knock-it-out-of-the-park guy. Maybe he's not. But what do they have to get done? I don't think anything. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are once again in position to take the best player that presents themselves available, or to trade up to a reasonable position to get a player that has fallen 5-10 spots that they think can be a game changer. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're even in position, let's be honest about this, they're in position to trade back. Should they trade? So they're selecting at 31. Say a team wants to come up and get a quarterback at the end of the first round. They're the third team. They're the fifth team in the draft. They didn't take one at number 5. But man, somebody's fallen to 31 that they thought was a first-round talent, but maybe not a top 5 talent. I'd like to go up and get him. Now you're in position to dictate terms because you want that fifth-year option on a quarterback. So you trade back to 35, 36, 37. You pick up a couple picks, and now you have ammunition to fill your roster. The Chiefs lost a lot of players this season, even if they did re-sign the big guys like Nick Bolton and Trey Smith. There were a lot of bit role players whose contracts expired, and maybe the Kansas City Chiefs cannot afford to re-sign them at $3 and $4 million a year. They have to fill those spots with rookies. So you are in position to go either way in the draft and take any position that you think will help your roster get better immediately. That is what the Kansas City Chiefs accomplish by signing a guy who they think can start at left tackle for this team and be an upgrade over anything that took the field at left tackle for them last year. So here's the thing. I'm kind of on the fence with this. I think it's a great move. I don't know if Jaylon Moore is a great player, right? I think that bit still has to be figured out. And I'll get into a little bit of analysis on him as a player in a moment here. But I will say this. If Jaylon Moore were on the field last year, I think the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. I do think that the offense is able to get its feet under it in that Super Bowl. They're able to get a few first downs in the first half, and they're able to score points and keep some pace with the Eagles long enough that pretend Patrick Mahomes got desperate. What we didn't see from him was getting desperate until he's down 3 scores. The opportunity just wasn't there. All of a sudden, it was bombs away to Xavier Worthy, and it worked. What if those receptions from Xavier Worthy had taken place when the Chiefs were down, I don't know, 17-28? What if that was the case instead? And all of a sudden you're throwing up Hail Marys to Xavier Worthy. That's nightmare fuel if you think you're beating the Kansas City Chiefs, right? But the fact was the game was gone by then. Had the Chiefs fielded a team, because remember, Joe Thuney would have been at left guard. Jaylon Moore would have been at your left tackle position. I think if Jaylon Moore is on the field in that game, it's a completely different, maybe I'm delusional, it's a completely different game. The offense is never stymied the way that they were. You're able to get first downs, keep the ball a little bit, and score some points. I will say that he did struggle versus Jared Verse of the Rams last year, but he still scored a 65 overall on PFF. So that is Jared Verse, very, very good pass rusher. A little bit concerned with that because pass blocking was his forte, but everybody has a bad game every once in a while. So, it is what it is. You'll figure it out if you're the Chiefs. I think that there is no doubt if he is who he was last season on a consistent basis, I think that there is no doubt that he is a better player at the left tackle position than anything the Chiefs put on the field last year. Again, it's experimental, right? This is an experimental guy. I forgot I had that note put in there. This is an experimental guy. It is possible, like I said earlier, that this goes either way. I think that there is ample reason to believe that he is the positive aspects of his game versus the fact that he just hasn't been on the field. I think that the upside there far outweighs the downside there. He is an interesting prospect. In addition to being an experimental guy, because he has a physicality to him, but he does not necessarily have the greatest athleticism to him. But I would stop short. One of the things that you've heard me say a few times this offseason when looking at these left tackles in the draft, he's more offensive lineman than athlete. Jaylon Moore kind of has the athleticism of a wrestler. It's a good athleticism to have if you're an offensive lineman, but he doesn't have the athleticism of an athlete. If there's any wrestlers watching, don't take that at its worst interpretation, but I think you understand what I'm saying. I don't think there's a whole lot of wrestlers, regardless of how good they are, that are absolutely running blazing 40-yard dashes. That's not the physicality required from wrestlers. So I would stop short of saying Jaylon Moore is more offensive lineman than athlete. But I think that he is more grappler than athlete. And that can have positive dividends in the sport of football. Once again, he was the 25th highest graded tackle from PFF. Just a reminder, that sounds low, right? There's 32 teams in the NFL. He's the 25th one. There's 64 starting tackles. Plus, he was not a full-time starting tackle, so you know that if he's not going to be the only tackle, not a starter, full-time starter, listed in those rankings. So that's actually not a bad number, even though it was limited by his snap count. Let me get back here real quick. What was the snap count last year? 271 snaps, the most of his career, but still not a whole lot of snaps. And he was in those snaps the 25th highest. So what did I see when I was watching Jaylon Moore on film here? So I think he has good drop steps. He doesn't have the fastest drop in the world, but I think that it is ample in that I don't think he's really going to... We saw the Chiefs tackles last season really struggle at getting depth fast enough. I think he's going to be able to do that. It's not elite, but he's good at doing that. He's good at creating the right angles. I think that he has, overall, good footwork. I think that that is something that the Chiefs will covet going forward. I think that he has a good anchor. Notice I'm saying good a lot. I haven't seen a whole lot of bad film from him. I saw him miss blitzes a couple times, but just a couple times. And I didn't notice any from last season. Obviously, he gave up 1 sack last year, but I didn't see that one. I wasn't able to find that play, so I don't know how that happened, right? But earlier in his career, there were times where a blitzer would just kind of run right past him, but I think the assignment he thought he had on the play was understandable. So he has a good anchor. He's good at picking up stunts and blitzes. I know that goes against what I just said, but I think this is something he has improved on. I think that earlier in his career, you could mask things in a way that would get by him. And again, this is cursory. This is what I knew about him coming into this, what I studied about him putting together that offensive line studies for the free agency, and then what I have kind of picked up since he was signed. So perhaps I'm wrong, but gave up only 1 sack last year. I do think if there is one place that he is elite, I think that he has elite balance. So you see guys pushing him, pulling him, tugging him, batting his hands away, does not affect his feet. That is more than just footwork. That's balance. This guy is able to stay upright, stay on his feet. He has great balance, in my opinion. Something also worth noting here, he is a pass blocker by trade. He's not someone who is particularly nasty in the run game. He's not someone who has really done, in my opinion, all that much to separate himself as a run blocker. He is a pass blocker. The Chiefs need that. The Chiefs need that at their left tackle position. That is something that should do wonders for them this season. So, overall, a positive move by the Chiefs. Is it a home run? I don't know yet. I think that we have to give this an incomplete grade, because I think that the Chiefs, I think you have to give this an incomplete grade because no one really is sure who Jaylon Moore is at this point. He has played less than 900 snaps in his 4 seasons in the NFL. That's a negative, but he was backing up Trent Williams, so it's not like he was just unable to get onto the field. This is an interesting signing, if nothing else. That is all I have for this video. I will be back again later because the Chiefs have apparently signed a running back too. That is the rumor. Give me 1 second here to see if I can. This is another former 49er. You're looking at Elijah Mitchell. So I should be back later with a video on that signing as well. If you like this sort of thing, hitting a like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. We've done daily uploads for over 2 years, and as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.